Hello there, this is N7TFP with another video in our How to Ham Radio series. This video will be a little bit about the common abbreviations or the quote-unquote lingo that we use on the HF bands. Okay, so this will be a pretty quick video. This will just be about some of the common abbreviations and the lingo that we hear on the HF bands. The first thing I'd like to talk about is the different kinds of CQ calling. The first is just regular old CQ calling. I just say, this is N7TFP calling CQ, over. And basically that's just kind of a open statement. Anybody is encouraged to reply to just a blank, or not blank, just a regular CQ call. But there's a few other kinds that are a little bit different, and when the first time you get on the HF bands, some people might not be sure what they mean. So when someone calls CQDX, what they mean there is they're looking to call a station that's a long ways away, perhaps another country, another continent, but generally not someone that's local. And so if I'm a KE7 station in the Pacific Northwest and I'm calling CQ, and I wouldn't be looking for another KE7 station necessarily. I'd be looking for someone in Alaska, Mexico, something like that, at least a few hundred miles away. But again, the distance about how far is DX considered, it's sort of debated, so we won't really define it, but that's the idea. The other kind of CQ calling is when someone calls CQ20, CQ40, CQ160, CQ2, and I'm guessing you probably have figured it out already. And what that means is they're just calling CQ on a particular band. And I do that sometimes when I'm on 20 meters or 10 meters or something like that, when I'm sitting there calling CQ for a long time, because just repeating CQ over and over again, it can get kind of monotonous. So I like to vary it up a little bit, make it a little more exciting, and try not to bore myself to death when I'm not having any luck calling CQ. So I might sit there and call CQ and then say CQ20, hello CQ, this is N7TFP. So if I was on 40 meters, I'd just say CQ40. It really doesn't mean much, but it's just something to kind of spice it up a little bit, I suppose. Now that's about it for the different kinds of CQ calling. But there are a few other things called Q signs that I would like to cover. Now, Q signs or Q codes or Q abbreviations, however you like to call them, originally come from Morse code, and they were just a quick way of abbreviating commonly said things on the radio. Now, there's a lot more than the 8 or so that you see listed here, and but these are the most commonly used in the voice modes for amateur radio on the HF bands. Now, the first one, QSY, that's pretty straightforward. Basically what that means is I'm going to switch frequencies, or depending on how you use it, it could be a question, do you want to QSY, let's QSY, or I'm going to QSY, and it'll usually be followed or preceded with the intended frequency that you'd like to change to. So basically QSY means change frequencies. Now, the next one, QTH. QTH, what that means is location. And so if I was on the air and somebody asked me what my QTH was, I would tell them, well, I'm in Gig Harbor, Washington. Or perhaps I would use it as a question and say, what's your QTH? And so that would be translated as, what's your location? QRZ. Now, QRZ is a little bit less well defined. Generally what it means is, who is calling me? But it's used in a couple of different ways, kind of in practice on the amateur radio bands. And the most common one I've found is when people are calling CQ and they didn't quite get someone's call sign when they responded, so they'll say, this is N7TFP, QRZ or QRZ, and basically what that means is, who is that? Say your call sign one more time, please. The next one, QSL, what that refers to is the actual contact itself that you've made between two stations, or sometimes the QSL card. So basically QSL means I acknowledge the fact that we have had a radio conversation or radio contact. Now QSO basically is the abbreviation for the actual contact itself. So, what I would use that in contacts would be something like, I had a nice QSO with Larry the other day on the radio. Basically, it's just abbreviation for conversation or contact. QRP stands for low power. And exactly what power level defines QRP is debated slightly. And I won't throw out a specific number of watts or anything like that. But generally in practice it's something around 5 watts. Some people define it as 10, some people define it as 1. But certainly not 100 watts. That would not be considered QRP by just about anybody. So, kind of the general rule of thumb is less than 10 watts, less than 5 watts, something like that. QRP means low power. Now, QRM and QRN, these are two related Q signs. QRM generally refers to interference being that of the man-made nature. Perhaps another station really close by is interfering with your radio, or there's some power line noise, there's something in your house that's interfering with your radio, who knows, there's a lot of possibilities there. QRN, however, is generally considered atmospheric noise, things like that. So the QRM and QRN are basically considered interference. Well, that about wraps it up for this ham radio tutorial video. If you've got something in mind that I missed in this one, perhaps another slang term, Q code, or something like that you think I should cover, make sure you leave me a message below in the comments, or send me a private message, email, whatever, and I'll make sure and add that to the video notes below. And if you've got any other ideas about future videos, things you'd like to see here on YouTube regarding amateur or ham radio, make sure you let me know. Until next time, 73s.